With the NBA season starting on Tuesday, I want to do a brief check-in on how two of my favorite prospects from this past year's draft have been doing so far to start their NBA careers. And after getting selected 4th and 11th overall, Duke's Knueppel and Washington State's Cedric are primed, in my opinion, to start out the gates with decent roles within their respective clubs to start the year. And I'm interested in how they might grow their games over the course of the season and throughout their entire careers. These are two players I looked very deeply into as a scout, and they're probably my two favorite prospects from the draft. So with that being said, let's take a look at some of their clips from preseason, see what's working, see what isn't, and see where they could grow. So I think that both Knueppel and the Charlotte Hornets are benefiting from him being alongside a dynamic guard like LaMelo Ball in the preseason. Even with Collin Sexton coming off the bench, I think there's a lot of different opportunities and different looks that Knueppel will have, as opposed to being at Duke, for example, where him and Cooper Flagg shared a lot of the responsibility of that primary creator. And I evaluated him before the draft as an elite off-ball mover, and he's shown a continuation of that in the preseason, and I obviously expect it to continue. I will say, though, in the preseason, he only shot 29% from deep on relatively high volume, but I would expect that to recover given his strong history as a shooter and the fact that he just has not gotten NBA reps with not only the speed of the game, but the athleticism of his opponents as well. And I think that also affects the way he is as a driver, especially since he'll need to adjust his timing to the athleticism of league defenders. Not only the timing, but understand the fact that he is becoming a lower and lower grade athlete as he goes up in level. He's got to understand the different angles and things like that. And like I said, at the NBA level, the game is just a lot faster. So I definitely think there will be an adjustment period for him to some extent as that athleticism gap widens. I still see a lot of improvement for him on the defensive end as well, especially once again with screen navigation. As you can see on this play, he should recognize that he has an angle to keep a wide base and go over the screen, but instead tries to curl around it and gives up an open three in the process. And he's pretty slow-footed on rebounds, and the dominoes, you see that again, will continue to be an issue for Khan. Here he gets pretty much just cooked in a stagger action, but on a better defensive team, I do think this could be mitigated, since Kalkbrenner probably should have been looking to move his defensive spacing more towards the elbow here to protect from this curl, but since he doesn't do that, they get into this crisis situation. And so Knueppel is still a smart defender, though, and he does use his body well. And so with that being said, I am excited to see how things carry forward for him into the future.
Him talking about basketball is basketball, no matter what level you're playing it at. Move the ball if you got the right guys.
P.J. Washington creating at the end of the shot clock.
It all sinks in and it'll become a lot easier.
Thompson, no.
By the big fella.
Yeah.
He has been the talk of Hornets camp last couple of weeks.
There's a big man resurgence in the NBA.
Agreed. We have our share.
So in the same game, we got to see a lot from my personal favorite draft prospect this year, which was Cedric Coward. Coward shot an abysmal 11% from deep, though, in the preseason, but I do think some of it can come from the fact that he just hasn't played basketball in a long time. It's also crucial for me and from a scout's perspective to see this film from him, since not only did he not play much last season for Washington State before he tore his labrum, but this is really his first time against blue chip talent, as he played for Eastern Washington before that. And what's apparent to me is the frame and the effort that he has is still outstanding, and it looks like he does belong in the league. And there are just a few technical things that I guess I'd like to see differently. For example, his screening. Here you can see that he's using his hands and not really his body to screen, which not only could get called for an illegal screen in the regular season, but is also just not an effective way of not only creating space for your teammate, but for yourself as well. I think defensively, though, he is pretty much as advertised, and he'll actually probably benefit from the intensity of the regular season as well. As you can see, though, he's not really playing with a ton of urgency because it is the preseason, but it's clear to see that he has the tools to be a great defender. And I was interested in how he played this defensive possession in particular. As you can see, the driver walks into this Miles Bridges Gortat screen, and that takes two defenders effectively out of the play, which slides Jaren Jackson to protect the rim. And with Jaren leaving Moussa Diabate open in the dunker spot, Cedric Coward has to leave Knueppel, who's his man, in the corner to guard that immediate threat. But since he cuts off the look, Sexton hits a risky wraparound pass to Knueppel, and I actually think Coward recovers pretty well with that. although the shot did go in. And I think this type of defensive stretch is exactly why I was excited to see Cedric Coward come out of college and enter the draft, and why I think with the intensity of the regular season picking up, he'll fit right in. I love the versatility he's showing as well on the defensive end, from being able to cover the big effectively, run out in space, and then also see him pick up guys like Brandon Miller and LaMelo Ball in the full court. I think he's got a lot to like despite the shaky preseason. And so with that being said, I think we have two relatively mature prospects who are not only ready to enter the NBA, but also ready to be role players at the very least out the gates now. When I did my draft breakdown video and gave my full big boards, I said that both Knueppel and Cedric Coward have the upside to be all NBA players down the road, but on average I thought they would at the very least be upper level role players who make a very big impact on their team. And even though the stats might not say that to start the preseason, you also have to understand the context of what preseason is. It's a lot of guys trying different things out. It's a lot of people trying their best to make certain rosters, and people don't want to get hurt. People don't want to play with very high intensity. And I think also not only that, but for guys like Knueppel, for example, playing with someone like LaMelo Ball, who kind of does his own thing, doesn't really play within a system, there will be a lot to adjust. But I think both of them are actually in great landing spots with Charlotte for Knueppel and Memphis for Cedric Coward that will actually let them thrive. And I think these are both two players who, a few years down the line now, will be someone that we can confidently have on any winning roster. And that's really what I look for when I'm scouting and I'm looking for talent. I love seeing players who can contribute to winning basketball, and I think both of them do, despite maybe what some would consider a shaky start to the preseason.